Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Prep Life. Let's talk about the situation that took place in South Korea. Now, you probably don't care about South Korean news. There's a tie-in, right? Unless you're watching Squid Games or K-pop, you don't care about what's going on in South Korea. So, South Korea has a DMZ. We know that. Demilitarized zone set in 1953 against an invader called the North Koreans, who were backed by Russia and China. So, that was not a peace treaty. That was an armistice agreement, basically a truce. Out of all the civilian populations in the world that need to be prepared, the South Koreans should be prepared, except they're not. They're very complacent. So complacent that their national institutes, including their law enforcement officers, carry the old 38 Special, Smith & Wesson 38 Special. That's what they're issued. The insane part of that is they carry a blank in the first round in the chamber out of a 6-round cylinder. Some even say it's one empty round, one blank as a warning shot, and then 4 live rounds out of the 6-round cylinder. And most of the police officers aren't armed at all. Well, why does that matter? Well, it matters because when you're arriving on the scene of a person who's deranged stabbing people in public, you can't deal with it in time. And your reaction is always slower than action, especially on an empty chamber or a blank. The concept for me of putting a blank in a live firearm is insanity. Their SOP is they give 3 commands of warning, 1 blank warning shot. So if like the guy lifts the gun and shoots, then you'll just be dead because you have a blank in your gun in this rotating cylinder of a very slow actioning 38 Special. It just boggles my mind. So a guy walks in to a mall after he just crashed through a crowd of people, injuring 5 people, and then goes on a stabbing spree to stab 9 additional people, 14 total people injured. I'm surprised nobody got killed. He's running around the mall on camera, stabbing people, and the first responders who show up aren't armed. By the time they get somebody on the scene, they apprehend him, and the guy has psychological issues, etc. But this is the problem. And when you look at regression, right, when you look at progressive ideology and how it affects freedom, including individual liberty, this is what you deal with. How many people in that mall were able to protect themselves from a person stabbing other people? They weren't, because you're not allowed to have a gun unless you go through a rigorous protocol to own one. And when we look at South Korea's, even their defense setup, they're heavily depending on America. I love the protests where they're saying the Americans need to get out of here. Well, number one, the Americans are the reason that you guys are free. And by the way, I'm Korean. I'm half Korean, a product of that occupation and war. Japan would own Korea if it wasn't for America intervening in 1950, right? Post-World War II, we were like, okay, what do we do with Korea since we kicked the Japanese out as invaders? Well, I guess we could fight for it, and we did, at the cost of tens of thousands of Americans' lives. So now we're occupying that space. To think that you would be okay on a border with a radical dictator, that's fiction, okay? That's fiction. So message to South Koreans, be prepared, right? Nobody's going to prepare you for the worst case scenario, which is North Korea coming into your country, and the Americans will have your back to a point, right? To an extent. Well, Mike, you're fear-monger. This would never happen. It just happened in Ukraine, guys. Let's not blow smoke up each other's butts. It just happened in Ukraine, where people at local armories were handing out AK-47s to people in Ukraine who have never touched a firearm. And look what we're dealing with now, over a year later. We're still in a campaign against Ukraine, which this leads to my conversation in civil unrest. When we look at the Trump circumstance, just recently there was a protective order issued against him, basically saying, hey, you can't talk on social media, right? His political speech, which he's a GOP candidate, a candidate for president of the United States, they're saying you can't talk on social media. What? That's suppressing the First Amendment right, but also this is just the SOP, the standard operating procedure of a radical regime of dictators that are trying to silence everybody who doesn't agree with their narrative and who is backed by half the country. I think it's less than that now. I hope you guys are like seeing this and going, this is insane. But think about the worst case scenario here. Let's say they say he can't talk anymore. Now he can't talk, and if he does, he'll go to jail. If after he wins the GOP candidacy race, if he wins that, he potentially could be knocked off the ballot for a charge of insurrection. And then what are we left with? Well, half the country that's really pissed off. And then what are we left with as a candidate? The backup plan. And what's the backup plan looking like right now? Maybe DeSantis, maybe Pence, who knows? But it's not a viable option when going against Biden. So then what happens? Well, a little bit of civil unrest, potentially turning into something bigger. And where are you left as an individual? Well, we have the liberties and freedoms to protect ourselves in this great nation. Thank God we're not under the thumb of a whole bunch of people who don't get it on the border of a reckless nation. We could individually take care of ourselves for now, right? This is a precedent, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but we know where this leads if we don't win in 2024. Let's talk about this video I just did on this channel on Mike Glover Actual. I did the transition of a vet to a 392. And, you know, I that's like just something I did. You know, I wanted to get something for the kids, something more reliable. I don't have a lot of reliable vehicles. My Land Cruiser just broke down. I have a lot of older vehicles that I still had. I have the same TJ Jeep that I've had since 1999. People who know me know I don't get rid of vehicles. They just pile up in my yard. But I don't like selling vehicles. Like I don't like selling guns. Like don't sell your guns. But when I look at a Corvette and transitioning into a family rig, I want something reliable. I want something safe, but I also want something capable and displacing from bad circumstances into better. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of EMP-proof vehicles that are really cool, but I want something that I know on 37s I'm going to be able to hop over the curb, go overlanding off-road, and get into a better circumstances, which is why I went down the 392 route. It's a V8 powered, gas-powered, no electricity dependency, gas-powered vehicle that is going to get me and my family where we need to go. Look, I'm not pushing anything here, but what I'm saying is I'm going to do more content on this 392 and how to set up your rig. I often do this, but it's important, guys. Like, your vehicle is your lifeline. It is the logistical supply train that's going to get you where you need to go. This weekend, I'm training with Mike Hernandez, Kyle Cooper. We're doing a mobility experience course where we're focused on teaching people survival, first aid, all the things. Kevin Estella will be in town teaching survival during that course as well. Super stoked about that. Hey, guys, I want to talk about suicide prevention real quick. This weekend, I don't want to go too much in the details or the weeds of this, but I was at a funeral for a young man who took his own life. The young man was the son of one of my employees at Fieldcraft Survival who does a lot of volunteering for Responsible Citizen, and we don't know why. I was sitting there talking to his dad, casket side, trying to figure this out. And I think his father and his mother, his loving parents are heartbroken, as well as his sisters. But this is something that's happened more and more in this country. I mean, my buddy Neil Curry took his own life recently. My buddy Ian Hall took his life recently. This is an epidemic because it has to do with a mental health decline, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. Part of the issue, I believe, is social media. It's not this kind of interaction. It's not like you're trying to learn from somebody and you're getting that, you know, you're looking at that, you're trying to better yourself, all those things that are good in social media. I think it's the social pressures of kids trying to keep up with the Kardashians. And you'll never keep up with the Kardashians. We look at the teenage girl demographic and record suicide rates, record depression, record anxiety. And I think social media is a lot of that variable to point the finger at. But we believe in free will, right? We have our decisions and our choices, but also it's about parenting. Guys, if you're letting your kids just go down the rabbit hole on social media, you're doing them a disservice. I just recently looked at a property, and when I went into this house, there was kids all over the place. They had a family of 6. Every single child in that house was sucked into his cell phone, his or her cell phone, not making any contact with the outside world. That is scary. We live in a society where the generation that's up and coming can't even look you in the eye without feeling intimidated. So what do you think they're going to feel when we have these external outside pressures, these peer pressures, this bullying, all the things, because they're trying to keep up with an algorithm and comparing and contrasting themselves with something that's unrealistic. That's not real. And when they should be interacting in the real world. If you are suffering from a mental health issue, if you're thinking about taking your own life, please talk to somebody in your circle and tell them how you feel. Like suicide prevention lines, yeah, that's fine. You can talk to a stranger to figure that out. But take the opportunity to just talk to somebody who loves you. Talk to somebody who's close to you and just tell them how you feel, because I hate to see somebody else take their life. It's sickening to me to have to see these lives lost so fast and leaving behind these loved ones. Lastly, if you're thinking about taking your own life and you think it's selfless because you're relinquishing burden on people you love, it is the most selfish act you could ever make. Because that you're not relinquishing a burden, you are injecting a burden on people that love you, and you are haunting that family, your friends, forever, who will forever remember that you took your own life, and it will disrupt and create heartache and heartbreak in that family and your friend network forever. It is selfish. Do not do it. People love you. People care about you. And we want to take care of each other. We should be policing each other each other up. On that Fieldcraft HQ update, the reason we're doing this Fieldcraft HQ, doing this tribe membership, I talked to Devin, a tactical cowboy, about him and his wife's component of Fieldcraft HQ, which is the Performance and Recovery Group, PRG. It's about building a base of fitness and recovering with physical therapy. His wife, Devin's wife, is a physical therapist. On the jiu-jitsu side, got confirmation Greg Lappin's coming in, and we're going to build out this dojo. We are trying to build a community of ready human beings that are more resilient than the average, who are taking care of each other in our community. American Contingency members are going to be part of that experience. You can go to AmericanContingency.com. Also, it's about building a place where we can come in the worst case scenario and support one another. We're going to be volunteering. We're going to be doing Responsible Citizen every Wednesday, which are free courses to the public. We're going to have a retail section of firearms, all the things. I talked to Paul from BCM. We're going to have BCM ARs, the only AR that we'll offer in-house. We'll have SIGs, Staccatos, Glocks, all the things for everyday carry. And I'm super stoked about it because it's about building community together. Still looking at a 1 September date for the grand opening. We hope to see you there. I appreciate you guys. Lastly, let's talk about the SOG guests I just had on Mike Force. On Mike Force's podcast, which is a separate YouTube video, it's a podcast that I do. We just had a former study and observation group member from Vietnam. These are Green Berets, Navy SEALs who served. There was even some Force Recon guys who served at the study and observation group, which is a classified program in Vietnam. Talking to Dick Thompson, who's a former 01, meaning a recce team leader, about his experiences was insane. Tune in that podcast, man. He was talking about being in a crater, trying to survive, trying to take an NVA prisoner, and literally crawling out of the hole to get this guy. They got into a hand-to-hand combat fight, and he had to take this guy's life. But, man, his story of overcoming adversity and then getting his degree in psychology and then focused on building resilience in others is insane. You'll see that on the Mike Force podcast really soon. Guys, I appreciate all the support for this channel. I hope you live your prep life. The gear reviews I just launched on our app. Our application has all the experts. I am doing gear reviews, which I fought for because I love gear. And we wanted to wait to get on that platform to do it. Also be launching podcast on that. A lot of people have given me positive feedback on my call out of Jocko Willink. Again, Jocko, if you're listening to this, I'm still calling you out, bro. I think this nation needs you. We're a year and some change out. We need to get on this bandwagon if we're going to make this happen. No regrets. No regrets. I want men who are capable of leading this country to run it. And between him, Andy Frisella, which are my top two picks for president, I think they should both run, and I'll do anything I can to support them. Make sure you tag and harass them so we can get these guys to get off the bench and do that. Guys, I love you guys. Hope you have a good week. Till next time, peace out.